The following story is written and narrated by Taya Indira. Liliah and the Ocean, a whale's tale. Have you ever heard the sea breathe? Not the waves, not the wind, not the foamy hum which caresses the sand, nor the loudest sound of water on the shore, but the sea itself, low, slow, like something alive, dreaming beneath the surface. Liliah had. She lived in a wooden cottage perched above the cliffs, with walls that smelled like salt and bed sheets that fluttered like sails. Her hair was always tangled, her knees were always scraped, but her ears were tuned to the sound of the ocean like a string on a violin, tight and humming. Her grandmother had always said, "You've got salt in your blood and moonlight in your bones. That's why the ocean speaks to you." And maybe it did. Because one night, under a sky full of stars and one enormous moon, Liliah found an enormous seashell sitting in the windowsill of her bedroom. Shaped like a spiral and pale as milk, with soft blue lines curling along its ridges, it looked patient, like it had been waiting. Tied to it with thin string of kelp was a tiny handwritten note. Blow this only when the sea feels still and when your dreams are brave enough to follow. Liliah mused. The sea was never still, not really, but tonight it was close. She tiptoed outside, her white nightgown illuminated in the darkness, her long tresses hanging loosely down her back, her curls moving with every gentle step that she took. She made her way down to the seashore, her steps silent in the hush of the night. The tide had fallen so far back it felt like it was holding its breath, waiting for her. Clasping the shell in her hands, she brought it to her lips and blew. As she exhaled, she felt the ocean begin to quiver. A mist rolled in, causing her nightgown to gently blow behind her. Her hair, too, seemed to dance to the beats of the call of the shell, which was softer than thunder but deeper than a sigh. It rolled out into the air and across the water, slow and wide and ancient. Then everything went silent and still. Even the blinking of the stars seemed to pause. Liliah stared out over the ocean, waiting. She felt it before she saw it. Just past the shallows, the sea began to swell, gently yet fast. It was as if the ocean was about to breathe. Through the darkness, she saw a shimmer of silver and sapphire, curved and glistening, rising from the depths. Squinting and transfixed by the haunting sight before her, her eyes met another, gentle, huge, and older than the sky. A creature from the deep, a whale. It didn't move, not right away. It simply watched her, vast and still, as if waiting for her to understand. and Liliah did. She felt the pull inside her chest before she saw anything else. A quiet call, deep and low, not made of sound but of knowing. A path seemed to form on the surface of the ocean, leading directly from where Liliah stood on the sand to where the whale lay in waiting. She took one step forward, then another. Her footsteps didn't submerge below the surface of the water. She stepped gently onto the water itself, weightless, like she belonged, the ocean her guide. A hush held the air around her, and the tide remained low and reverent. Step by step, she walked across the ocean's surface until she reached the waiting whale. It lowered its head slightly, eye to eye with her now. She gazed into that ancient eye, dark, endless, wise, and kind. No words were spoken. None were needed. Their understanding ran deeper than sound. A mist began to rise, not from the ocean, but from somewhere older, as if the sea itself had exhaled. It gathered gently around Liliah, warm and full of breath, and lifted her as if she were no heavier than a gentle sigh. She settled herself on the whale's back, resting her hands against its smooth, velvety skin. She could feel it, not just the movement, but its rhythm, its thought, its age. She took a deep breath and whispered, "Let's go." And they did. The whale moved slowly at first, gliding forward with the weight of centuries. Liliah steadied herself. The movement was unfamiliar, yet as natural as breathing. With each passing second, she found her balance. She let herself be carried, and in time, only a minute, maybe two, they became one. Then, with no warning and no fear, the whale began to dive. They sank beneath the surface with barely a ripple. The world below was unlike anything Liliah could ever have imagined. Darkness should have swallowed them, but instead, the deep glowed, not brightly, but softly. A gentle illuminescence emanated from the wonders in the depths of the ocean. Moonlight filtered down from above, fractured into beams by the waves. Each shaft of light caught particles and creatures in its path, tiny flecks dancing like glittering dust. A swirl of translucent jellyfish drifted past, pulsing gently with hues of rose and gold. Beneath them, a cluster of small, luminous fish darted like sparks from a slow burning fire. The whale swam slowly, with the grace of something ancient and unhurried. Liliah clung gently to the smooth rise of its back, her eyes wide, her breath steady. She realized she could breathe, even here, where no air should be. The sensation seemed as natural as breathing should. Nothing about this new world seemed unexpected. From water we are born, to water she had returned. To her left, a ribbon of manta rays glided in perfect formation. Their wings flapped silently as if they were flying through ink. aliens of the deep enjoying drifting along with the other creatures in the depths of the ocean. Although they passed so many species of all colors imaginable, they were all as one. With no clear purpose, they traveled through the deep. Liliah realized that the journey was not the destination, but the journey itself was how the creatures of the ocean lived their lives, gliding with the tides, floating in tune with the pulse of the earth, the sacred seas which she was privy to experiencing. What a gift! Glancing downward, her eyes trying to take in everything possible, afraid that she would miss even a tiny moment of the beauty and magnitude surrounding her, she saw coral forests reaching up from the ocean floor. Not green or even autumnal forests found on land, but pillars and arches of colors so vivid they seemed to hum. Purples and blues, oranges and greens, each one glowing faintly like the lanterns of fireflies. Liliah reached down as they passed overhead, her fingertips brushing a swirl of seaweed that twirled upward to greet her. She smiled and gave thanks from her heart, for words meant nothing in this strange new world. She knew that even if language or words did exist down here, they would mean naught, because being one, there was no need for words, and everything, including her, were one. The whale released a low, echoing rumble, part song, part sigh. It vibrated through the core of her being, stirring something so primal yet basic, yet forgotten to those dwelling above the depths of the ocean. This was no dream. This was a gift. Above them, the moonlight shifted. A wave of silver shimmer spread outward as if the ocean itself had exhaled, and through it came a pod of whales, their silhouettes vast and gentle, their songs resonating through the water like lullabies for the earth. Liliah's whale responded with a song of its own, deep and resonant, and the others turned to greet her. One passed so close she could see the barnacles on its back and the glint of ancient wisdom in its eye. They swam together, slowly, silently, and Liliah knew she had been called for a reason. Suddenly the whales turned upward, not with fear, not with urgency, but with power, with purpose. Liliah held tightly as her whale surged towards the surface, the momentum building beneath her like a wave within her own body. They burst from the ocean with a force that defied silence, soaring through the air, bodies gleaming in the moonlight. For a breathless moment, Liliah was airborne, lifted not by wings, but by water. The ocean held her in a cradle of light. Around her the world shimmered. Beneath and beside her the sea exploded into brilliance. A symphony of glowing water droplets soared skyward, cast from the bodies of breaching whales. Each drop shimmered with bioluminescence, catching the moonlight as it fell, like diamonds tossed from the heavens, suspended in slow motion. The plankton glowed with hues too wild to name, turquoise, violet, gold, and danced in the air like stardust. The spray coated her skin, her hair, her lashes, so that for a moment, Liliah herself looked like a constellation suspended between sea and sky. Time stretched, and in that silence, she knew she was not just witnessing magic, she was part of it. And in that moment, Liliah found her voice. Not her speaking voice, not the one used for reading or asking or answering, but the other voice, the one that had lived dormant inside her, the voice we are taught to suppress. It had been waiting for this moment of remembering. It came out raw, primal, a call not of joy, not of sorrow, but of something unspeakable. There was no word in the English language for what this was. It was too big for language, too true. She cried out with her whole self, a sound from the center of her being, from her blood, from her soul. And the whales, they answered. They dove back into the ocean as one, their massive tails slapping down in a chorus of thunder and light, and their voices rose in harmony. A song so vast, so deep, it reached the edges of the earth and beyond. Because in that moment, Liliah did not feel like a girl, or a visitor, or even human. She was not on the planet. She was of it. She was every droplet, every shell, every current. She was the breath of the ocean and the silence of the sky. She was the color of coral and the salts in every tear. She was one with it all. Every atom, every molecule, every vibration of the universe pulsed through her. There was no separation, no fear, only belonging, only all. The water softened. The echoes of the whale song lingered, stretching across the currents like threads of silk, gradually fading into the silence of the deep. Liliah rested against the whale's back, her body quiet, her breath slow. There were no more visions, no need for color or sound, only stillness and peace. One final time the whale turned, gliding upward with careful intention, and rose again to the surface. But this time they did not breach, they floated. Side by side with the others, the great creatures hovered near the edge of the visible world, their forms just below the shimmer of the sea. Then, gently the mist returned. It gathered around Liliah like a soft tide, wrapping her in something warmer than water and lighter than air. It carried her back through the quiet, back across the ocean's breath, and finally back to the shore. Her bare feet touched sand, cool, damp, familiar. The shell still in her hand spiraled impatient. She clutched it to her chest and placed her other hand over her heart. Liliah turned to the sea. The moon still hung above her, and far out in the water, barely visible, the pod of whales circled once more. Then, one by one, they began to descend. Not quickly, not suddenly, but slowly, purposefully, as if returning to a home too deep for memory and too old for time. The last to go was hers. It paused, only for a moment, and Liliah whispered, "I hear you." And she did.